We were a little premature in seeking sunshine, or really warmer weather. Usually us Mainers wait until after the holiday season when the days are short and are much colder. But sometimes the opportunity presents itself to fly away and have a different, warmer experience in other parts of the country, and we seize that opportunity. For this adventure, our travels took us to Florida, on the Atlantic side of the state, for an extended weekend at the end of my partner's business trip. But this trip began with a different tone for me before I even left Maine. For whatever reason, judgment came front and center. That is, judgment of self and others. So my awareness of judgment was heightened for the duration of the trip. The second lesson would come later, and that is the reminder that it is okay to let go of our plans and to just relax. We have done this trip in the past. In fact, we did it earlier this year where we stayed in the exact same hotel. And in the last 2 times that we've been there, we have done such things as renting bikes to go on little excursions, or to rent kayaks to explore the mangroves, or to take the town's electric vehicle shuttle, I think it's a circuit, to take it into downtown Hollywood and explore that area, or have dinner or lunch there as well. So when I finally accepted to take the cue that it was okay to relax, we were only going to be there for 2 days, that I could take that breath and realize that it's okay for us just to do the beach scene or stroll the boardwalk and to eat, and those would become our adventure. Now, along with that, it's realizing that this whole people watching that we all do is a good test to become more aware of the judgment that we may be projecting out onto others. Because judgment is a very heavy energy. We can carry it around like a bag of rocks. And when we set our gaze in judgment, or our thoughts in judgment, or our words in judgment, even if we're just saying them to somebody else, that becomes a very projected and heavy energy that we're setting onto somebody else. So the counter to that is to become aware of it and to also either stay present in what we're doing or to project the higher frequency energies instead, like love, like compassion, and like kindness. With every gaze, we create a story that can be completely opposite of reality. And so we work on building awareness of the judgment that we project. This whole trip has been full of tests, from the airport to my own self-judgment. But when we are aware, we can watch with less judgment and witness things with a far more compassionate lens. And Jess may learn a few things along the way as well. The people dancing at the concert were a display of how to be free, to let loose, and not care what others may think. In the same vein, the people sunbathing on the beach from various cultures showed me to own our bodies and not care what others may think, to allow our self-confidence to be a natural part of our demeanor, especially that voluptuous woman whose breast fell out of her bikini as she passed by my chair, and she simply put it back in and said, "Oh, there was no embarrassment or mortification." On she went with her day. As I laughed along with a group who had spent the night on the beach with their blow-up mattress, chairs, table, and now empty bottles of alcohol, as they ran for the waves, frolicking in them, laughing hysterically, and having so much fun, not caring what others thought. They were free, they were having fun, and they didn't care. And I sat there enjoying every minute of watching them. And then the general feel of the people of all ages, strolling and biking on the boardwalk on this fall weekend, just being themselves. Lastly, lessons in appreciation of nature. It was a windy weekend and has been in Maine for the last few months. The winds brought incredible waves, which make you feel like a kid when you're in the water. The waters definitely felt different than they did last spring. And then there were the turkey vultures. They arrived after sunrise on our second morning. When we got back to the room, something caught my attention outside. So I stepped out on the balcony, and I'm gonna call it a parade of turkey vultures was coming over our building and appearing to like ride the currents. There must have been well over 100. I was mesmerized and excited. For those into such things, I know there was a sign. What it was, thoughts for another day. And that was our weekend of seeking sunshine. We got just enough sun to help get us into the depths of late fall, early winter, but not too much to burn this fair Maine skin. No exploring of place on this trip, but more exploring of people, learning from them, and trying not to judge quite so much, but instead putting more love, kindness, and compassion out into the world. As has been part of the consistent message this summer, the winds of change are gusting. The winds were strong in Florida over the weekend, as I mentioned. They created these huge waves on day 2 to the point it was considered high risk, but not quite to the point of shutting the beach down. I was knee deep in the water at one point, and I was soaked up to my neck on day 2. So I will continue to answer the 3 questions asked by the wind in my breaking routine video from a couple months or I guess earlier this summer for this video, because they help us engage with our adventures instead of being in that autopilot mode that sometimes we can live in. First, what inspired me on our trip to Florida? I have to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of everything about Florida. However, I am inspired by the, I'm gonna say, unapologetic body confidence that so many women, particularly from my point of view, have. It is so inspiring to me to be around and to witness, and it motivates me to have more body confidence as well. As far as how I grew on this trip, I would say my awareness grew. Like, I feel like I'm pretty far on my path that my judgment should be kind of under control a little bit. But when it's highlighted to you, you just realize how quickly we are to judge, as I've mentioned, with our eyes, with our thoughts, with our mouth, or whatever it is. And maybe we need to work a lot more on exchanging that judgment for love, the kindness, and compassion. So I would say my awareness is what is growing or taking that next step forward. And lastly, what am I grateful for? I am, of course, grateful that I have the opportunity to step outside of my day-to-day as much as I do and get a different perspective. I am forever grateful for that and realize how fortunate I am. And that, my friends, is a wrap. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you will come back for next week. Next week's video will be a book that I have been reading, and I will go ahead and share that with you. It's a good one. I hope you'll come back for it. But I thank you for joining me, and as always, please be well and keep stepping forward.